and welcome to the Marina Show. I am your host, Marina. I am here. If you got to see the last show, it was epic, with one of the most entertaining, enthusiastic, and spiritually benefiting women I am yet to meet in my own life, LA. She is telling us about her experience as a police officer, notably her experience as an undercover police officer in one of the most dangerous areas of Toronto. In fact, I'm not going to take away from your story, but why don't you just give us a recap of your task as an undercover victim?
So it was my assignment for a summer to be a decoy for the Paul Bernardo rapist, the Scarborough rapist. Although we did not have his name at the time, we only had a description. So my description was a person who was about 6 feet tall, quite charming, good looking, gray suede jacket, chiseled cheekbones, and that's all we had, because he would attack women from behind and they would get only a glance at him, and we didn't really have even a composite sketch. But my very first run out on a TTC bus, I'm sitting, I don't have a gun with me, I don't have my badge, I'm a plain old citizen. I can't give away any, as an undercover operative, you just can't, get yourself burned by looking like a police officer. And I was sitting, in 3 rows ahead of me on the bus was a fellow with blonde hair, chiseled cheekbones, a gray jacket. And I am so stoked. I'm thinking, this is it. I'm going to get this guy, like, first run out. What are the odds? This is amazing. I'm not even in danger. He's on the bus even. And I'm going to get promoted out of this. I had it all planned all down the road. This is going to be awesome. And this person had that intuitive feeling someone was watching him. He turned around and he said, "Hi, LA." I knew him. Oh my gosh, I knew him. I knew this fellow who was sitting on the bus. He was a lifelong friend of my parents. He was the son of my parents' friends. And he said, "What are you doing on the bus? Like, what are you doing in this area of town? You're a police officer. What are you doing here?" And I had to come up with a story. I didn't expect to see this person. It was definitely not Paul Bernardo.
Oh my goodness. But
then I realized, oh my gosh, I have 20 undercover officers waiting, and I know where this fellow lives, and he's going to get off at the same bus stop as me, and these guys are going to jump on him and arrest him because he matches the description absolutely. But I didn't know if he was or was not who we're looking for. So I had to come up quick with a story because I didn't want to burn my cover. I didn't really know if he was indeed on our suspect list.
Okay.
So I had to lie. I had to say, I'm on my way to a party. And, I didn't really even know the address. I know the route I had to take, but I just had to bluff my way through. And then when I realized that, he's probably going to be interrogated when he gets off the bus, I had to think quick. So I said, you may want to get off at a stop before me because there's a good chance, like, I have a jealous boyfriend and he's going to be at the stop, like, at Centennial. So you may not want to get off with me. And that way I knew he would get investigated, but it wouldn't be through anything I had to do and it wouldn't blow my cover. So that was kind of interesting. But I did have to work that route for a whole summer, and it was a little, my heart did pound often. I'd be doing that run till the middle of the night. And one time, another quick funny story, I was walking up this road. You see, I'd have to get off the bus at a certain stop, walk up a certain street, walk down a side street to a backyard. Then I would be picked up by my sergeant, taken back to the bus station, and we'd do it all again because we weren't really sure of the time frame. A car full of young boys on a way to a party pulled over, and they saw me walking up the street, and they were trying to pick me up. So I had to again come up with a story that I was on my way to my aunt's house and kind of get out of it. But then they saw me about 15 minutes later in the same spot, so I had to talk my way out of that.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so you get good at thinking on your feet. And
look at you.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
amazing.
I look at my career as I had a lot of good laughs, a lot of good times, and that balances off the negative, and of course all the fellas that were in the bushes were laughing at me getting picked up by a 15-year-old and 16-year-olds on their way to a party. So that's, kind of career highlight.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Like, when you're in that situation where that look-alike of Paul Bernardo, did you feel that God is what gave you that quick response, that ability to think so critically and so quickly?
I believe so. I believe, and at that time of my life, I wasn't really walking with the Lord, but now that I look back, I see that the Holy Spirit was with me time and time again. There was times where I thought I was going to get shot. I knew that there was a gun involved with a certain incident, and it was a shotgun, and I just like closed my eyes. I thought I was going to get shot, but I walked through it. There's a time where I actually got a knife in the throat.
No way.
And God,
do you mind telling us about that?
Well,
your stories are so captivating, Ellie. I'd love to know about it.
But it's not until like now that I realized how close God was with me, even when I wasn't like acknowledging Him. I just want to make that point really clear that He never leaves us; we leave Him. But I had, being one of the only women in my division, I had to do a lot of, unfortunately, searches, and it was like the bottom level of any kind of duty, of course, but I mean, there's a purpose to it. You look for weapons, you look for evidence and that type of thing. It's very integral for the safety even of the person who's under arrest. I was searching this woman a young girl actually, who had been arrested for credit card theft, and notoriously they're not dangerous people, so I had let my guard down a little bit, and I felt sorry for her. She was very young and seemed to be quite naive, so I let my guard down, and sure enough, when I was in searching her, she pulled a knife on me, and no one had told me also she had a mental illness, and she went wild in that room and pinned me against the door and put the knife right to the edge of my throat, and I thought I was going to die that day, and the Lord just gave me words to talk her down and just calm the situation far beyond my intelligence level, and it just seemed to work, and she dropped the weapon, and I'm here today. But it was a split second between my jugular and those words. So.
That's amazing. And that reminds me again of the verse that St. Paul says in Corinthians, where God says, my grace is sufficient and my strength is made perfect in your weakness. So then Paul says, therefore I will boast in my infirmities. So, because that's when God gives him strength. So it seems like all these difficult junctures in your life, that's when God really was awake and working in your life. And that's just so lovely to hear. And this is my first time ever meeting a female police officer, let alone getting the opportunity to interview you. So if you can just, so now we're talking about, was this at the beginning of your career when you were undercover? So can you maybe tell me a little bit about how your career developed?
Well, unfortunately, I was involved in a couple of accidents as a passenger. Just want you to know, as a passenger, wasn't a bad driver. But as a police officer, you're on the road 10 hours a day or longer, and the probability of being in an accident goes up greatly. I have been hit from behind several times, once on the 404, once by a drunk driver while I had someone under arrest for drunk driving in my back seat. And then I also fell off a horse in a freak accident and broke my back. So I've had cumulative injuries, and about 10 years ago I had to basically go off on a sick leave, which it broke my heart because my career was very, very important to me. But God has His ways of really using every part of our life for His glory. And if it wasn't for the fact that I laid down my ambition, and I would think that probably my God at that time was my career, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to literally be bedridden with nothing to read but my Bible. So I got to learn quite a bit about my Lord. And if I had been too busy, saving citizens and doing that, I probably wouldn't have taken the time for God.
Wow.
So I'm
I can't
grateful.
believe the amount of faith that just radiates from you. So many of us, we lose things, we lose our jobs, we lose our educations, we get a bad mark. And all we do is complain and ask God why He put us in this situation. And just your positivity is so inspiring that you would see a situation like that where you were, it seems, at the height of your career, and God just took you away from that and said, no, I have different plans for you.
Yes, He did.
And He introduced you to Himself. And that's amazing. And the fact that you could see that is just such a gift. It's such a gift for all the viewers and for me to know. So thank you so much. I'm just going to end this segment off by just saying it really does seem like God has played such a pivotal role in your life. And I know I keep on dropping Bible verses, but it's just, I read the Bible and then I listen to your story, and it's almost like a direct application of everything. And God says in Jeremiah 29:11, He says, I know the plans I have for you, plans to help you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. And sometimes we think our hope and our futures are in one way, and God's plans are in a different direction.
Amen.
And you've definitely showed that to me. Thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to interviewing you the next time on The Marina Show. Thank you, LA. We'll see you next time on The Marina Show.